I've been doing some thinking about my game. I've been doing some thinking about life in general. It's funny when you're a child, you think you do whatever you want. That you're immortal, untouchable. When you get to become a teenager, that gets even worse. That whole way of thinking that you're invincible. When I was young, I did some stupid stuff. I'm not proud of it. No one should be proud of the stupid stuff they did, unless there was like something really cool happen at the end of it. You know, like everything was everything died except for you, sort of thing. From like an alien attack or something. I don't know, but I've been thinking a lot about the game Quest for Lubok, and I've been thinking about like my journey in life. My son was sick yesterday. Uh, had something, I don't know, like mild flu. The whole 9 yards, if you will. And it just got me thinking about when I was that age. When I was 8 years old, what was I doing? When I was 8 years old, I was in grade three, I think. Yeah, he's going to be in grade three this fall, and it got me thinking about life in general. Because life is such a precious thing. We live in a world that everything just seems to have gone to shit, and I've noticed that a lot of people in life too. They're very phony. When people are on YouTube, and they're trying to act all funny and witty and cool and hilarious and stuff like that. Of course, we all know it's an act, right? We know what people really are like in the real world. People aren't all like this. Everything's an act. All the legitimacy and all the original people, or happy people who are really genuinely good people at heart, they all get buried by the dark hand of fate and evil in the world, and you could find a lot of that within every society and every culture and every business. Remember when people used to trust their country or their government or companies? You've seen a lot more of that lately with all these old video game companies that were really once prominent, and that that were forged from something really terrible. Like Activision. Activision was formed after a bunch of Atari employees were sick and tired of Atari's BS, right? Atari was the grandfather of video games, right? So they say. And so you see Activision, they leave, and they're trying to like do this whole like, they start their own thing up, and it's kind of like, sort of like an Apple mentality where it's like, think differently, and everybody would be, free to do whatever they want. That's great for the first or second wave, of people that work there. The first generation, the ones that started. And then the second generation that comes in, live off those. And then the third generation of employees that come in, totally turn it to crap. People will turn anything horrible. Same with Blizzard. Blizzard was a good company at one point. Now look at them. Microsoft had some, well, Microsoft is all right. And now look at them. Same with Apple. The whole idea of think differently was, hacking and programming and pushing your system to the limits. Apple was really great until they stopped doing that. Then it became such a conformity, such a like a prison camp almost of thinking. The whole idea of Apple was to be different, was to be free, was to be able to take your machine to the next level and create some really pretty cool stuff. Now look at Apple. Everything's all tight and packaged into like formed boxes. You can't take apart anything because you're going to void the warranty. You need special tools to take apart that iMac, if you want to like replace something. And at the end of it, it's like this huge system that was made to be a rebel in the industry. And now look at it. Now it is the biggest oppressor, Same with Microsoft. Microsoft has so much great things about it back in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it kind of went to crap when they started producing their own hardware. Software companies should never have to make hardware, and a hardware company should never have to make software. That's the thing I like. Yeah, okay, all right. You might need one program or two programs here to run this thing here and there, but you shouldn't have bloatware. You shouldn't have bloatware. You shouldn't have anything on it. Yeah, okay, I get it. I bought this laptop, brand new. Nothing to write home about. just an Acer laptop. And then all of a sudden, halfway through it, right? Like I look at the hard drive and it's full. Like not full, but a substantial amount. And so I had to delete like 5 gigs of stuff on here because it's all bloatware. You know? I remember when software companies, you knew what you were getting right off the hop. Now we gave all this power and all this control to software industries and hardware industries and stuff like that. And now we get what we get. And if we don't appreciate it, we could always just go pound sand or something with our fists, our programming fists on the sand. But anyways, I see it with video game companies too a lot now. And I guess that's why I was a huge gamer back in the day. Don't get me wrong. Like I was a huge gamer back in the day. And then slowly over time, everything got so bland and tiring and just so similar. Like, remember when like the Nintendo, you had like a Nintendo game, right? And you played Mario Brothers, but if you had a Sega, you couldn't go out and buy Mario Brothers for Sega. It's like here's a better thing. All right. Each console's game back in the day was very different. There was the only thing that connected, the only games that were similar on every system were fighting games and racing games. And I thought that was pretty sweet because Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo was completely different, well, with minor differences, than the Sega Genesis version. Music-wise, yeah, okay, music's always going to be different. Like, the Sega Genesis couldn't do the same kind of music that the Super Nintendo could do. But to me personally, like, yeah, okay, Nintendo music was alright, like the NES stuff. Super Nintendo, whatever, but Sega Genesis had more of that kind of underground, trash sound to it. And I'm not talking bad about Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis is great in my opinion. I loved it. But if you want to look at something different back in the day, look at Aladdin for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. 2 totally different games. Same, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis is a million times better, in my opinion, than Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo. Even though my friend swears up and down that game, loving it to bits, but I love the fact of being able to play a Velociraptor on the Sega Genesis, and, I think that's cool. And, those are completely different games now than from the ones you got on the PC. And that's what I really liked, was that just these differences, like every game on every console was different in every single way. Nowadays, everything's similar. Everything is basically the same, and it is so disgusting and boring. The only differences are in the controls and the visuals. And to me, that's garbage, in my opinion. I honestly can't stand it. And I guess that's why, like, I'm really big into, the freeware and share, the open source stuff. Freeware and sharing. I just dated myself horrendously. But with open source, though, everybody gets everything, and everybody can change everything. If you like one thing a certain way, Billy Joe Bob down the street might be like, you know what? No, I want this to, run in 64-bit, and I want its music to be like that of a MIDI file rather than a live music file, like an MP3 file. And I just think that's really cool and really neat. And I started thinking about this stuff, right? Because I've been asked a lot by people on Reddit and stuff like that about, why didn't you use Inform, or why didn't you do this and that, and why don't you add music and, imagery and stuff like that, like graphics. And I'm like, well, then it's not a text adventure. like it's not a text adventure game if there's there's visual graphics on the screen. It's a text adventure is just what it is. Like, okay, yes, I get it. Okay, there's some text adventures that have graphical displays, graphical imagery, like the Twilight Zone text adventure. All right, yeah, okay, I get that. But I keep telling people this is just a bare, basic text adventure that you would find on a shareware CD or a BBS somewhere in the from some bottom of the barrel BBS. This isn't Zork Zero, or or any of those other games. Like, no, this is. I even say it. I even said in the first blog post, I'm pretty sure I do, in the first video, that this is an interactive book, an interactive novel. It's a text adventure with no pictures, no sound effects, right? You that is what your imagination is for. I don't need to tell you what to do or how to feel with music or imagery. That is up to you to decide. That's what for your imagination to create. And that's why that's why I'm making this video, because I keep saying this to everybody, every time I say it, like, I'm like, it's text adventure. It's not a graphical text adventure. It's not a graphical interactive adventure. It's a text adventure. To me, a text adventure is a small, like, 30 kilobyte game where it says you are in forest. Directions: north, south. You press south. You are standing by a forest river. It is noisy. East, south, east, north. That's what my game is, but without the very, very, very basic descriptions. So this is your brain playing this you playing this game, and your brain is creating the graphics. This game, I'm gonna say right now, has the best graphical has the best graphics card in the world, in the universe. And that graphics card fueling this game is your imagination. But anyways, that's all I got to say about this. Have a wonderful day, you guys. Take care. Stay safe out there. Keep adventuring, my friends.